Checklist.io.
Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of You Deserve Fresh Lettuce. I'm your co-host, Rachel.
And I'm Delia.
And this week we're going to be talking about the mistress, marrying your mistress, marrying your side guy.
Your Sancho.
Your Sancho.
Your paramour.
Oh yeah, we just learned.
We just learned today that, because I always knew that the guy, it was a Sancho, right? Just because I'm Latina, Mexican. I hadn't actually heard that terminology in a long time. Mm-hmm. And then I found out this week that it's a paramour.
In English, it's paramour, right?
Paramour,
it's
yeah.
Sancho or
the
whatever.
Sancho, yeah.
So I didn't know.
We're going to be, phrasing paramour, Sancho, and then the mistress. Elvira, mistress of the dark.
Can we say side hoe? Or are we going to
side hoe? I don't think we're going to offend anybody. I mean, this, you don't have to listen. If that offends you, then, log off. But share it with 3 friends.
Hey, if you're doing it loud and proud, be proud of everything that you do, right? All right, yeah. So have you ever been a side hoe or a mistress or a SANCHA?
I have never been a mistress, a SANCHA, anything. But I will say I did catch a guy that lied to me about being married. And I knew something was off. It's that gut. And I'm like, I don't know. Something tells me this guy is married. Not only was the guy married, by the way, but he had a child he lied about. And the way I found out is he went off to the store. I found the checkbook in his glove compartment because I knew he was up to no good. And I saw her name and his name. And you cannot pick up a guy's name unless you're married on a certificate of marriage. So I was young enough to know that. But this is way before I was even married. Okay. And I just was like, I'm not doing this. I'm good. And so I tapped out and I'm like, I'm not made to be a mistress. I've been around that a lot.
Yes.
It's just been really close for comfort for me. I'm always I'm always the go-to where people just confide in me. I'm not going to give out any names today.
No names
believe
today.
me, you confided in me for a reason, but you hear it a lot, and the woman always wants the man to leave the family or vice versa, and someone threatens. Someone always gets attached to somebody, and it's always like, you got to leave him or you got to leave her. How about you? What's your experience?
Let's talk about that because that's the main thing.
Right.
And I always say, I raised 2 boys into men, right? And one of the things that I would talk about is look, there's no win-win here because at the end of the day, if you end up being married and then you start messing around over here, even if she's married, whatever the situation is, you think, okay, the woman, this is what I noticed, the woman acts like she's super cool with it.
Right.
So it's always I'm cool with, you're cool, I'm cool. Don't worry, I know the situation. I don't expect anything. And like Delia's saying, it flips. It always
someone
flips. And you know what I think? I call BS on some of the women who go into it thinking that they're fine.
Right.
I do, because I've yet to meet one, and I've met a lot of them, just like you have. I've yet to meet one that didn't go all the way down the rabbit hole, and go into it knowing she was competing a bit,
go
into it feeling like she must be better than the wife. You're not better. You're just different.
You're just different. Or it's a state of newness.
It's just a new,
It's a state of newness, and you know what? You're not. So the man's not coming home to you demanding anything of you. You're just the fun, sporty weekend afternoon. Yes. Oh, take me to, because I've known people that it's like, take me shopping, take me to Louis Vuitton, take me to get some red bottoms.
Yeah.
That's all fine and dandy if that's your get up, but it gets old, in my opinion.
That's really, not the married version of him.
No, exactly.
That's his representative.
Exactly.
That's his single alter ego so that he can keep impressing his new toy. Right. And he keeps giving her the nice dinners. The side girl usually gets treated very, very well.
Have you ever heard that the second wife is okay, so there's this saying. The first wife is kind of, I guess she's considered the mop, and the second wife is a wife. Have you ever heard that?
So I haven't heard it that
It's something
way.
like
I believe, though, that men like the first marriage is practice. Like, I really do think like they go into it because, and it's funny because we're about to veer off real quick on this, like we do. So buckle up your seatbelt because we're about to take a side route. We're taking the side route,
but we're gonna come back around. Yeah, okay, this is gonna. We're gonna get some content.
We're gonna get you. Yeah, we're gonna bring you back. So here's the thing. I 1000% agree. I've never heard that term, but what I do know for a fact, again, working with a bunch of men, all these different things, that a lot of them, when they got married, I mean a lot of them, when they first got married, that first wife, some of them, I'm talking to them while they were married with their first wife, and they said they married her with their head, meaning they were like, you know what, I'm getting older, I'm about to turn 30, I don't want to be...
It's always a 30, right?
It's logical. They marry out of logic. She seems like she'd be a good mom. You know what I mean? Her family seems all right. It's all this logic.
Right.
And so then they go in and they're like, cool, now I got to play this role. I'm a provider, I'm a dad, I'm a husband, all these things. But that thing that they're like needing or like whatever that spark is, something is not quite right there when they choose for logic. Like that just wears out quick. And they go through like the motion. So they're like in this rhythmic like motion thing, whatever. If they do a good solid 10 years in there,
they did good?
Yeah. They learned some things. Okay. And when they jump out or it ends, because let me tell you, guys rarely walk away from the marriage. Like, they will cheat all day long, but they rarely pull the plug. Like, that they get caught. They can get reckless to try to get caught, but they rarely pull the plug. I heard someone say, marriages end when the wife is over it.
That's true. You're right.
Marriages end when the wife is done.
It's very rare that the man files for divorce. Yeah. And if ever, I'm always like, what? He filed for divorce? Yeah. Wow, she must have been traveling. Yeah. She must have been traveling. Yeah. But I will say, so obviously this is a topic that's kind of a hot topic in my opinion, just because there is a lot of men and women. Women are okay with men being married. Like, they're okay with I've even heard that women will go after the man with a wedding ring. Like, I've even heard that. Sure. Like, they just love men with
challenge. They love the challenge.
They love the challenge. So, I have a few people that are in my life, right? Like I told you. And so I had a big conversation with this particular person, and I'm like, well, what was it for you? Or what did you get out of this? And she basically said, look, when I was the mistress, she said, I didn't think how important it was to be married, the boundaries, like the love, the companion, like that whole family, like the way that warmth of family. She didn't know she was a homewrecker. She didn't know what a homewrecker looked like. Now she married him. Now they've been married almost 10 years. And she says that she protects her marriage, with everything, her being, her soul. And she says, had I have known that marriage was this sacred, I would have never been the mistress. But she was going in on it without realizing that she was affecting a whole family. And she was destroying a whole family. She was doing it selfishly is what she said. She's like, now, she completely trusts her husband. And she completely trusts him. I'm thinking she may have GPS on him, possibly.
Hello.
But
justified.
Just because
I know we just got done filming an episode called Toxica, or Toxic People, but I feel like that's it's justified. Okay.
I mean, I guess, if you feel like you need to have a little bit of a GPS on somebody, then it is what it is. But
it makes sense though. But it makes sense because, see, if you go into a relationship where you're both breaking some kind of rules, you already know you're rule breakers. Right. You already know he's a rule breaker, I'm a rule breaker. Yes. He knows that about you. So he doesn't know what you're doing when you say you're going to go to the grocery store and it takes you 2 hours instead of 1. You don't know what he's doing. He says he's going to go to a car wash, but why is it taking so long? Right. Because you're remembering that
he's getting it waxed. He's literally getting it waxed.
He's getting waxed. And she's getting waxed separately. And all you probably do at some point, I imagine, because this is why I haven't been the side one. Because look, then when you're off doing those things, you're remembering that he used to have to make excuses to go see you.
Yeah. No.
Right? And so it's like, I think here's a trick. If you're the side chick, I'm not here trying to give you like advice how to succeed at this. But maybe now that I think about it, maybe right now while you're in that motion, while you're in the process of that, every time he gets away to be with you, just say, I'm curious, like, what do you say to get out of the house? Like, how do you, like, learn what those things are? So if you do end up being with him and he tries to
or
use
if
it,
you end up being with someone else.
Oh, yeah.
See, for me, the red flags when I was with that guy that lied to me about being married, I had no idea, by the way. And so sometimes I have an issue when people say, oh, she was a mistress. Well, did she know she was a mistress? Like, I mean, I didn't date him very long because things were just kind of popping up. And he's like, meet me at, you know, like this mall. And I'm like, why? I mean, he's not taking me shopping, by the way. He just wanted me to meet him there. And then from there, we were going to drive off to like wherever we were going. So initially it didn't seem very weird. It's just like a meeting point. He's at work and what have you. And then he'd say, I'm going to be at your house by 7. I'll pick you up. Okay, 7 came, 8 came, 9 came. It was late. He was late for work. Supposedly late to pick me up from work, I should say. And believe it or not, those started to become red flags. I never really went to his house. That's a big red flag for me, especially when they say they live by themselves. Only because to me, after, you know, a few months, you're like, okay, so where do you live? Because you obviously know where I live. You're picking me up from my house. Yeah. So, and this is again before I was married, but still. And so something was off. And I'm telling you, like, your woman intuition is like speaks to you and is like nudging you, like something's off. Yes. And I remember the minute I saw that, I mean, I flipped out. I was like, you should have let me know that. And then I found out he had a son. And that was, to me, that was the worst thing. Because I'm like, it's one thing for you to deny your wife, but to deny your blood, that's horrible. Like, I'm now being a mother. I wasn't a mother then, okay? But now being a mom, like, the first thing I say is, like, divorce, mother of 2. Yeah. If you don't like me, back away. It's okay. But I'm very forward about it. I'm not going to lie about it, but he lied.
Because, like, such a liar. Because he wasn't single. He's a single father. Or he was actually married.
He was actually married. And then towards, I want to say, like, he was going through his separation, which is fine, but then I have to make the determination whether or not I want to be with someone that is going through such a split. And I always think, like, people need a little bit of time
That's what I'm gonna say right now.
to vent, right? Like, I always say at least 6 months in order for you. Yeah. It could be longer, but minimum 6 months of, like, being alone, and then you can start dating, or maybe I'd consider after 6 months.
And that's where I'm going because listen, I met someone years ago. He was married, I was married, but it's one of those things. I mean, if we're being completely candid, like, you know, when you meet someone that you think, oh my gosh, like, we click. It doesn't have to be super flirty or anything like that, but you just know, like, this person has something that I like. Obviously, they like me or whatever, but you could be friends because you're not going to cross lines. Great, but I can tell you that when I got divorced, this person stepped forward and was like, look, all the things, and, like, basically all the truth came out. And so to me, I was like, okay, like, I know I felt something off and on here and there when I'd be around him. I was like, oh my God, he's a pretty great, just in general, like, what a great freaking guy. I was, like, impressed, or whatever you can say. And I'm not easily impressed.
But he impressed you.
But he did. He managed to. And so he kind of became the bar, is what I like to say. Okay. It doesn't have to be him, right? But you can recognize someone if they're married and go, oh, you know what? I'm attracted to that. If I can be with someone like him, that doesn't mean go be with that guy. It means, you know what? Maybe God's showing you. Like, that's what your bar should be.
This is what you should want.
This is what you should be aiming for. So I always kind of visually imagine, like, that's my bar. Right. But I can tell you that like what you said, like, I chose not to be the side one. I thought, okay, I left my husband because he just couldn't get it together with the adultery thing, all the stuff. And so for me, I don't like to share. If I'm going to leave my husband for doing that, it's because I used to think I'm an only child. I didn't even share my toys. I'm not going to be sharing the things that I love, you know? And so I don't share. So to me, I just felt like, okay, even though he gave me the phone call, he revealed himself to me now that I was divorced, which, you know, I kind of appreciate in that, like, I kind of knew along the way here and there little hints, but he really, like, exposed himself emotionally after I left my husband, which would have been hard if I was married, going, oh my God, processing. Yeah. But he did it after. But in my case, oh my gosh, some people, when I do reveal, like, the depth of what the situation is or was, they go, Rachel, you should have just ran off with him. But here's the thing. I know I've done the work on myself after my divorce. It doesn't take 10 years. It could take a year, 2 months, whatever. But you got to do the work, like Doug is saying. And even till this day, if that person today truly left, because he's been 1 foot in, 1 foot out, if he truly left, and I'm not the one, by the way.
Yeah.
I made a decision. I'm not the one that you're going to leave and then like come lean on my shoulder.
Right.
I'm not the one right after. Like you're going to have to go make some kind of mistakes.
Yep. And then if I'm still available.
If I'm still available.
Then we can talk. Otherwise, no thank you. And then there's also, you know, the guys that have the mistress, get the wife pregnant and get the mistress pregnant, and then now he has 2 kids that are the same age. And I don't know, I don't really know what's worse. Like I've never been in that predicament, thank God. But I don't know what you do then, because I think, like we always say, be sure that if you do leave or if you have him leave, that you are certain that you're never going to get back. Because we were just saying,
I was just saying that, like you never break up with the guy to punish him ever.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
But that happens a lot where it's like, oh, the mistress is pregnant and so is the wife. And then now what? You know, but, and then there's also instances where, you know, the woman wants the man to leave the family. Like she's pushy, wants him to leave the family and wants, you know, him to herself. But it goes without saying, like if he started the relationship bad, you're never going to trust him. And the likelihood of you or him cheating is pretty damn likely.
That's the thing. Like,
in my opinion,
I learned really early on, if you're mad at your partner or whatever, you cannot just tell him, get out, it's over, and throw his things out and be dramatic and do all these things because you're mad in the moment and you just want him gone. Because here is what he's going to do. Here's what happens in his mind. When he crosses that door seal, that doorstep or whatever, he's single. A male mind is like, he crosses that door.
I mean, he crosses
that. He might be sad.
And even if you, like, if he's still married, I mean, look at how many times guys go and he doesn't care. He's like, I'm out, I'm out.
You kicked him out. So guess what? He might be heartbroken. He might be wounded. He might still love you. He might do everything. In the meantime.
Yep.
Let's just say you break up for 2 weeks.
Yep.
In those 2 weeks, he's going to be calling you, texting you, sending flowers. But he is single. So if he goes to the bar, hook up. If he goes with his friend, hook up. If he's online, FaceTime, whatever's going to happen there. Like, it just is. I can't speak for 1,000% of men or whatever, but I have heard countless stories of regret from women who are like, oh my God, guess what? He went and got this girl pregnant, just like you're saying. He went and got with this girl and I don't know what to do now. Well, you kicked him out into the street. And now you got to deal with this woman in his mind that you don't know if they're going to stay in contact or anything.
And you did that. You created that fuss and that chaos. And you know what? I know that there's a girl that married a guy that was pretty successful, like a restaurantpreneur guy. And she was a little bit older. They had like a couple of kids from what I remember. And it was one of those, like, she kicked him out. He didn't know where to go. He was kind of lost. He was not sure. So finally, you know, I guess he just decided that he's not going back. So now she begged him back. And now he has another woman. He's doing amazing. And I mean, I think that she might be on the outside looking in. And from my understanding, he wasn't cheating on her. She was just she's on her month, you know? And
ladies,
there's always 3 sides. Listen, there's always 3 sides to a story. So I heard
the truth.
I heard the best version of the story. So I can't tell you. I never heard her version. I'm sure her version may be a little bit different. But a lot of the times I think you think, oh, well, you know, I'm going to teach him a lesson and he's got to go.
Yeah, no.
But I think also when you do file for a divorce, when a woman has filed for a divorce or a person or a man, which is very rare, there's really no retracting that. Like once they've made up their mind, that's it. They're not coming back from that. So I don't know. Like for me, I personally could not be the mistress.
Yep.
You know, I always say sharing is caring, but when it comes to that, I don't share because I don't care to share. So I'm too territorial. But some people can shut it off. I mean, I've talked to women. I'm like, how do you go from being with your Paul Amour to Sancho, and then go home to your husband, and then it's like, well, I take a day and I won't have sex with him, and I'm like, well, that's doesn't justify.
That's just logistics. That's like not even.
But that's like her way of like cleansing herself until she has sex with her husband the next day. And I'm just like, that's just strange to me. I can't. I couldn't. I'm either I'm all in or I'm not. Like I'm either all my chips are on the table or they're not. And I can't do both. But, you know, to each their own, as they say. And, you know, if you go in bad, you're probably not going to ever either, he's not going to respect you. You're not going to respect him.
Yeah.
And you guys are never going to trust each other. But this particular person, according to her, she said that she trusts him. But, you know.
With GPS. So
with the GPS.
With the GPS. So here's the thing. I have seen second marriages win and win big.
Right.
Because like you were saying, like the first one's the mop, the second one's the whatever.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, if you're a first wife, if you're in the first wives club, listen closely, because I have seen plenty of times where the first marriage, it was just rough. It wasn't as romantic, or it was this, or because, you know, he's in training. Right. You know, you have a man in training. You're in training.
Right.
There's a thing that says, you know, the firstborn child is always a little bit kind of messed up because that child's watching their parents grow up at the same time.
Right, I could see that.
So there's all these things, you know. So at the end of the day, just know
that kid has like a lot of bumps on its head because it's been like knocked. It's like, oh shoot, the kid rolled. I didn't know kids rolled.
You can't give babies NyQuil. What? You know?
Well, the kids needs to go to sleep. Like, let's give them NyQuil.
So if you're the first wife, unfortunately,
it's a test run. It's a test run.
You're a test run. He's a test run. Period.
Yep.
The point is to stay together forever, no matter what the ups and downs. But he chose with logic, likely, unless you got married really young or whatever. It's likely that he chose logically. This seems like someone my mom would like, or whatever. You know what I mean? But the second one, I have heard countless times.
Like the girl has a tattoo on her neck. No, she's like all tatted. He's like, I'm bringing her home to mom. Like she's.
But I have heard countless times. Again, I haven't been a second wife yet, but I've heard two things countless times.
Yeah.
From the men, I have heard. Oh, I freaking love her. Like it's like love. Like they know the difference. Like it's love, it's attraction, it's respect. It's all the things that the first wife was fighting for,
right,
and begging for, right? In the second one, it doesn't mean he's gonna be faithful to you. It doesn't mean that those little habits aren't there. But he definitely, probably, likely feels something pretty amazing because he's learned some things. Okay. Now the second thing is, from the women's point of view, I have yet to meet a single wife in the second wife's club. Okay, who wasn't psychologically competing with the first one. And I mean, oh, she used to burn your eggs. Now I'm going to go buy the best skillet ever and make him the best eggs ever. So the second wife, which probably explains why the husband's so happy the second time, the second wife is freaking putting on a performance.
Circus. She's a circus act.
It is a circus act. It is
She's
a sleepless night. I mean, it is like, if you think that, you know what I mean? The first wife was like, they found love, they got comfortable. But the second wife, everything that she heard that man complain about his first, she's trying to be the opposite.
You know what's the funny thing about that is that is exactly what it is. And these particular people that I personally know, that I'm not going to even give out their names, I noticed that you know, the men that they married younger, which is the people that I know, and the wives are older, but it's almost like a constant like follow up, like what is she doing, what is she wearing, look at her hair, does she look younger, does she look pretty, does she not? I mean, in my opinion, you should never compare yourself to somebody else. Anyway. You won. Like if that was your motive, is to get the man, you won. Why are you comparing yourself? Like there's no need to compare yourself to the ex-wife. You're not the ex-wife, you're the new wife. Like embrace that. I guess you won if that's what you wanted. But you know, I think that no matter what, that's always something that, in my opinion, it feels like I would always never trust the person, because I would imagine that he wouldn't trust me. And it goes back to one of the episodes that we talked about. The way that you meet somebody is the way that they always throw in your face. Is that the way you are? Is that the way you are? And no matter who it is, if they get mad, that's going to be something they're going to throw in your face. Yeah, and so it's something that's going to be, and then the family has to accept you too. You know, that's a whole nother challenge. It's like the family's accepting the new relationship. And I don't know, it's hard enough. Like like for instance, for me, like I got married the right way and married, you know, before kids, and it wasn't like I was pregnant, and I still had a challenge with that a little bit, rough. And it's still challenging. So, I mean, we will probably wrap it up with that, unless there's something else you want to. No, yeah, I think that,
you know, like, you know, knowing that if you're prepared to even marry a man that was married before, it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing in that he's had some practice. He should have learned some things.
Yeah.
Right. So you're getting someone with a little bit more experience, which is good, versus someone who's never been married, never had kids. In my view, that's a little tough. I've actually been in relationships with people that was their situation, and I constantly in my head I could see, oh, he's a little green. Like there's, you know what I mean? Like there's just little things here and there. For some people, they prefer it because then they're not competing with anyone in their minds. There is no first wife, right?
Or first husband.
Or first, well, I'm not lesbian. But,
No, first husband. I'm saying for you, like first wife for the man, but for you, like if you had another husband, like if you got married again, let's just say.
He would have to be thinking about my ex, probably.
Right, of course. And then you would be like, okay, so if he's never had children or never been married, you know, it's like this is your second rodeo. So you have to just kind of...
You're going to be doing some extra work, because if you marry someone that's never... If you're on your second marriage and this is his first, you got some work. You got some work ahead of you, because there's so much he has to learn still. There's so much he has to learn still. So there's a possibility with that. You just got to be mentally prepared. And I've spoken to a lot of people about this subject, and they're like, yeah, there's a lot. But, you know, it's like, what does my grandmother say? You know, you got to train them. You can't change them, right? You can try and train them. Yeah. But, yeah, I think that we pretty much covered the air. Oh, having a baby.
Okay.
Him having a baby outside the marriage with the mistress.
Yeah. Oh, hello.
You touched it.
I was
and then
like, touched it. Yeah. Well, we did a U-turn.
Yeah.
Should we do? Okay, tequila.
Okay, tequila moment. Tabi tequila moment.
Tabi tequila. Cheers.
Because that happened to a good friend of mine when we both married very young. We married cousins.
Okay.
Very, very young. And then all of a sudden I remember driving her to a park to meet up with this lady that supposedly was going to confront her. And here she comes pregnant. My friend's pregnant.
How many months?
And they're staying pregnant.
No, like
one
6.
One was like 7,
6?
one was 8. Like they were pregnant. Like, and it was like, no. And so then it just turned into like, well, I guess he, you know, cheated in the beginning or whatever happened. Fast forward later, you know, it was fine. She ended up, you know, really taking in that child, you know, that he had.
So lady.
She stayed.
Okay, she's the one that stayed.
Well, lots of them have stayed. So she stayed.
Okay.
And
well, you know, just like
lots of them have stayed.
Like, in the past, like just people in general, or he had a lot of girls that he got pregnant.
No, not him. Meaning lots of women I know.
Okay, got it.
Whose husbands have had kids outside the marriage have stayed.
No, you're right. I know a few too.
Yeah,
I do.
And so basically, she stayed with him and everything. And then fast forward like 12 years or something like that, he got another one pregnant. A coworker or something.
No.
And it's happened to family members. It's happened to like this one. This guy's with her, and then he got with like her cousin or whatever, and then had a kid. Like, it's everywhere. And I am like you said, thank God we didn't have to deal with. We dealt with a lot. You dealt with a lot. I dealt with a lot. But we didn't have to deal with that.
Yeah, that's a whole other... too much. Like, at that point, I'm like, yeah, no. I mean, there was no pregnancy, but there was definitely infidelity within the family. Like, I remember, you know, my ex-husband was trying to get on my cousin's wife, and that's another story. Yes. I mean, I don't think that they went there, but then again, I don't know. Or, like, kid-wise, I should say. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't have a kid. But I think that just gets really sticky at that point. You're like, yeah, no, I'm out. I'm it's not about teaching him a lesson. I'm good. Like, stay with your newfound baby mama. So, you know, so but I guess at the end of the day, what we're really talking about is, you know, whether you're the Sancho, Parlamour, the mistress, if it starts wrong, it could end wrong. And the trust, in my opinion, there always is going to be an underlining, like a trust issue, kind of a little bit of a trust issue. And you just got to go with the go if that's what you decide to do, and then just make the best out of whatever decision you make. Whether you stay too, if he has a baby on you. I don't know. I really can't comment on that.
Yeah, if you married your side piece and you're super
really
happy, drop it in the comments. We want to know.
I thought you were going to say drop it like it's hot.
All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Don't forget to stay at the end. We have a mantra that you could read, screenshot, do all that. If you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, you can check it out in the show notes.
Yes, ma'am.
And thank you so much for tuning in.
And cheers.
Cheers once again.